joined by the national president of the Society of Professional Journalists, Alex Tarquinio, to talk about a forthcoming gathering that will be taking place in San Antonio, Texas, the Excellence in Journalism Convention. Tell us about that.
Yes, Jim, and first, thank you very much for having me. We are expecting at least 1,800 attendees. And this is, as you said, in San Antonio, Texas. We have more than 70 workshops and sessions, and we will have a career fair with journalism jobs and schools and other organizations with more than 50 companies. So we're all very excited. We also have some very special guests coming to get their SPJ Fellowship Awards, which we consider our highest honor, are the Time Magazine Person of the Year, Maria Ressa, Terry Anderson, who was a longtime hostage, Nick Utt, very famous photographer, and we are giving a posthumous award to Jamal Khashoggi, who is a Washington Post columnist who was brutally murdered in the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey. So it should be a very good show.
And we will, at a very near future date, by the way, be talking in greater detail about that conference.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that, however, I gather that the Society of Professional Journalists, which is the largest journalistic organization in the country, is not the only sponsor of this Excellence in Journalism Convention, correct?
That is correct. We started this convention almost a decade ago now with our partner, the Radio Television Digital News Association, and about every other year in recent years, we have been joined by the National Association of Hispanic Journalists.
Mm-hmm. Now then, that's where our discussion tonight comes into play here, in that the National Association of Hispanic Journalists is now returning more than $16,000 donated from Fox News to, I gather, the sponsorship of this convention. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I should say this was unexpected, first because we only heard about their decision a couple of weeks before the conference kicking off in San Antonio, and it is extremely unusual to make a move like this about a major sponsor so close to the conference. It was also surprising because Fox has been a consistent sponsor of this group of Hispanic journalists over the years, and less so, actually, with our EIJ conference. They've mostly sponsored us the years when NEHJ was with us. So it was surprising to hear their turnabout. But look, I understand, people change their opinions, and feelings are very raw in the country as a whole, and especially in the Hispanic community after the shooting in El Paso that targeted Hispanics.
We should probably get into the particulars. According to the president of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, that this was perhaps the tipping point, although not the only reason for their decision. But it goes to a statement made not on the main Fox News channel, but on their Fox Nation secondary internet channel, Fox Nation, that Todd Starnes had made a comparison between people entering the country illegally and the Nazis invading Western Europe in World War II.
Yes, and first I should also mention, although you've already said the name, our board has discussed this extensively since it first came up about a week ago, this issue. And in our statement about this, we actually did not use the commentator's name, and the reason was, frankly, I had never heard of him before, and I think that was same was probably true for a lot of our board members. He is on a subscription service, so we all understand how opinion works. In some of the most extreme cases, commentators will use outrageous things to help drive business. In this case, it is a subscription business. It's not on the main TV channel. So, to be clear, although we have not followed suit with what NEHJ has done, these comments, and it was even worse than what you said. He referred to rampaging horde of illegal aliens and, did compare them to Nazis invading France and Western Europe. This is callous, it's insensitive, and it's also ludicrous There's obviously no similarity between poor migrants with small children and Nazi soldiers marching into France. In our SPJ statement, we called these comments unacceptable. Perhaps a better word would have been reprehensible. We put the statement together in a hurry, but it's the same idea. The SPJ board loathes what he said.
Fair enough. All right. The comparison to Nazi Germany would, in particular, be, although of course these are people who had entered the country illegally, but that is not the part. Apparently, there was the flashpoint. Now, during an interview, which the president of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, Hugo Balta, had with National Public Radio, he made note of what he said was the fact that the Society of Professional Journalists, your organization, and full disclosure, I'm a member of that, and the Radio TV Digital News Association, of which I'm also a member, are still taking money from Fox, and you question that, said the questioner from NPR. Balta answered, that's correct, and I found out for the first time at that meeting in front of Fox News management. I take it that you take exception to some of the statements made by Mr. Balta.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect to my counterpart, who I do have obviously admiration for, and I'm looking forward to hosting this convention with him in a little over a week. But that statement was the most surprising element in all of this for me. First, about a week and a half ago, he called a group of all the leaders of the three groups together for a phone conference call in which he told us he planned to rescind the offer to Fox to sponsor the conference. And while I and the other partners were polite, it was clear from all of our comments, I mean, we were caught off guard, but all of our comments were skeptical, and none of them were encouraging or sounded like we were going to go along with this. Then he sent an email, which he copied us on to Fox, requesting a meeting. And in that email, he never mentioned wanting to rescind the sponsorship. The email subject line was meeting request in reference to Todd Starnes' comments on Fox Nation, and nothing suggested this. So I was not even clear if he had changed his mind after this phone call because we weren't really supportive of it in the partners. And only after Fox got back to us the following week and said they would meet with us, he then emailed us and said, to be clear, he's going to tell them in this meeting the next day that he planned to rescind this. Honestly, I kept trying to slow the process down. I asked him if he would delay the statement so all three groups could coordinate a statement, for example, and that didn't happen. But look, this was very fast. People were flying in from all over the country. I understand we didn't have a lot of time to speak. I think the most surprising thing to me in all of this, though, was the fact that meeting with Fox was officially off the record. And I know some of your listeners won't know what that means, but we went into the meeting.
But you should explain that for those who are not familiar with the rules of journalism.
Off the record essentially means you can't talk about what was said at the meeting. So I was also surprised on that level just to hear about it. Because it does go against some of the ground rules. But having said all of that, to me, the difficulty in communication when all of this was taking place over a few days in a very rushed way, and people were literally flying in from all over the country and showing up at the meeting with, roller bags from the airport, that's less important here than the broader questions. And I think we have a really fundamental conversation that we need to have about, the limit line between free speech and speech that is prohibited in this country, and that is different in every country. In this country, we have pretty broad definition of free speech. And our statement did cite the spirit of the First Amendment. Of course, you know that technically the First Amendment protects us from government interference. Yes,
that's a factor that I try to drive home as much as possible when people have suggested that, for example, I have suspended their First Amendment rights, and I point out that I am merely the employee of a company. The airtime belongs to the company Westwood One, but management's too busy to be up at that hour, and so they put me in charge of deciding arbitrarily, yes, but as fairly as I can, who does and who does not get on and for how long. The First Amendment covers government interference in freedom of speech.
Very much so. So the government cannot tell us who to invite as a guest or a speaker or a sponsor to our conference. We decide, and that is the beauty of the First Amendment. That being said, when you have partners hosting a conference, it does get complex.
Bottom line, I guess, is the conference goes on September the 5th and the 6th.
And by the way, Fox, I do want to make it clear for your partners that Fox will be there in the expo hall, and there still will be a conference partner. They've actually been on the list that the heads of all three groups have had for quite a while now of the conference partners. They were not a new sponsor, and they will actually be there because one partner can't make that decision. So, but the point I was making about free speech is also very important because it's not only government interference, it's what is protected free speech. Obviously there are limitations. As you well know, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
No.
But I think this is an interesting conversation to have. We were having this discussion on short order under duress, but I do hope that we continue to have it at the conference.
Well, it's pretty important. Obviously, it's a conversation being held all over the country, and I'm sure that it'll be a vital part of the excellence in journalism and convention that is coming up.
Absolutely. Right. To my mind, free speech is the guarantee of all of our other freedoms. We can't have our other freedoms if we aren't free to stand up and demand our other rights. But I do hope we'll talk about that and many other things at this Excellence in Journalism Conference.
Outstanding. All right, Alex Tarquinio, she's the national president of the Society of Professional Journalists, their website, spj.org.